Hello, beautiful souls and merriment makers. Welcome to a new mini-series on the Merriment Making podcast called Joyful Grounding. I'm your host, Mary England, and I will be guiding you for this 10-part series. And we're going to be talking about how you, as a caregiver, can rediscover a sense of joy, balance, and grounding, even amidst the business of supporting others, which you are a boss at. And if you're here, you probably know what it feels like to pour so much of yourself into other people that you end up running on autopilot. Maybe your days blur together and you are feeling like you have little energy to feel or celebrate the small joys and wins in life because you're just exhausted. So today we are going to talk about that autopilot mode and explore a gentle way to start breaking out of it by reconnecting with small, meaningful moments of joy. Before I talk about autopilot, I want to establish what I mean when I say a caregiver. You don't literally need to be at someone's bedside taking care of them every day, although you very well could be. You could be a nurse or a hospice worker, but a caregiver is really someone who is a merriment maker. A merriment maker is a space for unique, wholehearted caregivers that recharge and reconnect, and they embody the joy that they spread to others. And these are people who are art therapists or youth workers or mental health counselors or community organizers, environmental conservation volunteers, life coaches, human health aides, first responders, massage therapists, physical therapists, parents, therapists, social workers, Reiki, energy healers, crisis hotline volunteers, animal rescue workers, community organizers, occupational therapists, veterinary care workers, rehabilitation specialists. I mean, there's so many kinds of ways to be a caregiver. It's too many to list. I just want to be clear about what I mean when I say caregiver. So now let's get into autopilot. So autopilot, this is a survival mode that so many caregivers fall into. And we often do it because we don't even realize that it's happening because it's helping us get through our endless to-do lists and take care of those who need us. But staying in autopilot for too long can leave us feeling disconnected from our own lives, our emotions, and our sense of purpose, why we got into this business in the first place. If you're feeling like you're on a treadmill that's always running, you are not alone. So many people in these caregiving roles, these merriment making roles, whether it's at work, in families, or in communities, find themselves here on autopilot. And while autopilot can definitely help us get through, it's there for a very good reason. You know, the subconscious helps us know we don't have to remember which lane to be in, how we can get through the day. You know, it's helping us get through. And it can also leave us feeling drained and missing out on the little things that actually really give life meaning. It's what makes it fun. So I want to share a story with you that might feel familiar. When I was working at a psych rehab center, I would wake up before 6 a.m., drive 45 minutes to work, check in, grab the keys to a 16-passenger van, make a 2-hour trek around the county in rush hour traffic to pick up our clients who lived independently in the community and didn't have access to public transportation. And this was our only solution that the nonprofit had to getting them into the day program. Then I would return with them, and then I would help monitor up to 100 of our clients who were attending the day program in the cafeteria while they ate breakfast. I would make sure that I was checking everyone who ate off, knowing all of their names, so that we could bill for the breakfast, because that's how we got our funding, one of the ways. And then I would rush back to the office to grab my supplies, print out my classroom registration form, pens, and then I would go find the classroom that I was going to teach my first class of the day, set up all my supplies, and that's if I had no one, if there was no one that called out, if we didn't have to modify the class schedule, if there were no incidents with other clients. And at that point, I've been awake for 5 hours and I have definitely not peed since I first woke up. And I definitely had to pee by now. Okay. So most of the time, I would feel so guilty if I would start a class a minute late that I would not pee. I would not take any time to do that. And the first time that I would pee again was usually around 1:15 most days, right after lunch ended. And one day, probably over a year after I had been working there, I was going to burst. I was absolutely in trouble. And turns out I actually had a UTI that ended up turning toxic. My blood had turned toxic and I had to go to the ER. But I had to make time to pee before my first class. It was crucial. And there was just no other option. And after I peed for the class, I taught better. I was more present. I was focused. I was happier. And I enjoyed teaching more. I wasn't just trying to get through the class. I got to see how much the curriculum that I had worked so hard on preparing was working. I noticed the faces and expressions of the clients. I laughed with them and I was able to give them more thoughtful responses. And in that moment, I was hit with this reminder that I was doing all this work to bring joy to others, yet I was totally missing the joy around me. It was totally worth it to take an extra minute to pee before the entire class, for the entire class to be better. You know, it's worth it to be a minute late. And I just want to take a moment for us to think, like, has something like that ever happened to you? Autopilot might be getting us through, but it also blocks us from experiencing what's right in front of us. So today I want to help you start seeing those beautiful moments again. Even if you're busy or overwhelmed, you can still reclaim joy in small, meaningful ways. Breaking out of autopilot doesn't mean you have to change everything about your routine, though. It's more about noticing what's already there, slowing down just a little, and being present with yourself. And I'm here to guide you through it one small step at a time. Here is a practice that you can try today. It's simple but powerful. Remember that simple is the key with everything in personal development. Do not skip the 101 stuff. The 101 stuff is what gets you to the 401. You can't build without simple. Do not skip the simple. This is the pause and breathe method. Whenever you're feeling like you're rushing, whether you're at work, home, running errands, you have to pause. Try to pause. And it's the awareness to remember to pause is actually the hardest part. When you're feeling that sense of overwhelm, you have to try to remember that you're feeling overwhelmed. To even create the awareness that you are in this state of overwhelm is actually kind of difficult because you're really used to it. The normalization of the overwhelm, of the rushing, of the sense of stress is actually very normal. So creating the awareness of needing to pause is actually a little bit difficult, and we can work on that together in the merriment making method. But pause. Take a second to pause and breathe. And it's small, yes, but in that one breath, let's do it now together. Remind yourself that you're here right now. And as you breathe out, look around and find one thing that you're grateful for in that moment. It could be the sunlight coming in through the window, a cat purring, or just the chance that you had to take a breath. Or you can zoom out and think about why you're doing what you're doing. Why is the fact that you are taking care of other people important to you? In the big picture, why is this important? And let that moment ground you back to being here, being alive on this beautiful planet. Autopilot wants you to rush through life, but small moments like these, they can remind you that you are living it. Okay, it's time for our first merriment moment. This is a space for quick, joyful exercise to connect you back to yourself. So here's what I'd like for you to try today. Find a tiny, joyful ritual and make it yours. Maybe you can just savor the first cup of your morning drink in the morning, step outside for a quick breath of fresh air, or just take in one moment today to pause, breathe, and appreciate the world around you. And if you'd like, you can journal about it later. Write down one thing you noticed in that moment of pause. What did you see, feel, smell, or remember that reminded you of the beauty that is around you, that's inside of you, that you're working towards? Sometimes just noticing these things is enough to help us break us out of the cycle of autopilot. And if you want more help on creating an evening or nighttime routine or a morning routine, you can check out my recent episodes on the merriment morning and merriment evening rituals. Before we wrap up today, I want to take you through with this thought. You are allowed to experience joy even when you're caring for others, especially when you're caring for others. In fact, feeling joyful will only make you a better support for them. Caring for yourself helps you care for others more deeply. So as you go about your day, remember to pause, remember to breathe, remember to notice, and celebrate those small moments that make life special. Thank you so much for joining me today for the first episode in our mini-series of Season 3 of the Merriment Making podcast. Remember, this is just the beginning of our journey together, and each episode will bring you one step closer to grounding yourself in joy and peace. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and share it with someone that you care about and who maybe needs a reminder to slow down too. You can also give us a 5-star review. Until next time, keep finding those little moments that make your heart smile, and you can even share those with me or tag me on Instagram or Facebook at Merriment Maker, and I will share it. Remember, it is imperative to feel good before you can do good, and so you can do good. Take care, everyone. I love you.